single dad tried to stop his son, but that crying woman was a billionaire CEO in disguise. Before we begin, comment below and tell us, where are you watching from? Which city are you in? And when it's over, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. The rain hit the windshield like tiny fists, relentless, cold, and full of something Marcus Thompson couldn't name. Just ahead, on the darkened Seattle sidewalk, a woman in a soaked designer coat sat curled in the doorway of a shuttered bookstore. She wasn't just cold, she was sobbing. And when Marcus tried to pull his son away, Jaime slipped from his hand and walked toward her. "Ma'am, are you okay?" That moment, a child's voice cutting through the storm would change all of their lives. Because she wasn't just a stranger. She was the CEO Marcus didn't know he was saving. Wham. Where the night, where the rain hit hardest. The rain didn't just fall. It slammed against windshields, sidewalks, Marcus Thompson's heart. Each drop sounded like overdue bills, broken promises, missed school events. In the passenger seat, his son Jaime hummed quietly, watching raindrops race down the glass like they were in some kind of secret competition. Jaime didn't know that the parent-teacher meeting had happened 2 hours ago, or that Marcus hadn't gone again. He didn't know that behind their fridge magnet smiles, Marcus had no answers for the eviction notice tucked under the toaster, or that his dad's construction job had been sliced down to part-time. Again, Jaime just knew that his grilled cheese would be warm tonight, that maybe they'd read another chapter of Charlotte's Web before bed. That daddy always made it work, somehow. They parked, boots sloshing through puddles as they carried 2 grocery bags, mostly ramen and tomato soup, back toward their tiny apartment. The storm had cleared the sidewalks. Stores shuttered early. Even the city itself felt tired. Marcus just wanted to get home. Maybe submit another round of applications before midnight. Maybe just breathe. Then he saw her, curled in a doorway, shoulders shaking. A woman in what looked like a soaked wool coat, probably expensive, though now heavy with water and sorrow. Her handbag clutched like it held more than money, maybe memories, or shame, or both. Marcus's pulse quickened. Instinct said, don't stop. He'd lived downtown long enough to know. You don't get involved. Not when you have a kid. Not when the world's as sharp and cold as it is now. Come on, Jaime, he said, gently steering his son past. But Jaime had already stopped. Daddy, he whispered, she's crying. We don't know her, Marcus replied. We keep walking. Okay. Jaime's hand slipped from his father's grip. One small pair of sneakers padded back toward the woman. Ma'am! His voice was tiny, but certain. Are you okay? The woman looked up, her face blotchy, mascara smudged, and somehow elegant beneath the wreckage. She started. I'm sorry. I should move. I shouldn't. I'm not trying to make anyone uncomfortable. You're not, Jaime said. You're just really sad. Marcus stepped forward, tension coiling in his spine. But the woman didn't move, didn't beg, didn't threaten. She just let the tears fall. I lost my job today, she said. My husband filed for divorce this morning. I don't have anywhere to go. For a long, terrible second, no one moved. The only sound was rain smacking pavement, and the sound of someone trying not to cry too loudly. You can come to our house, Jaime said simply. We have soup. Daddy makes good grilled cheese. Jaime. Marcus began. She's not scary, Daddy. She's just sad. And in that moment, Marcus knew. He wasn't looking at a con artist or a threat. He was looking at a woman at rock bottom, just like he'd been once, after the funeral, after the job loss, after the, I don't know how to keep going, just for tonight, he said finally. Okay, just for tonight. Chapter 1. Thimman to buwin in skiyain. Figam win hari. Minkuwain. You woman, all right, Sin? And in the doorway, the bookstore had closed years ago, but the awning still offered just enough shelter to fool a broken soul into thinking she had somewhere to be. Sarah knew it was ridiculous sitting there, knees tucked to her chest, designer coat soaked through, the kind of image she would have scoffed at in her old life, the kind of woman she would have told, "Get up, you're better than this." But tonight, she wasn't better than this. She was this across the street. She didn't see the boy at first, didn't hear the soft rhythm of small sneakers splashing toward her, didn't notice the man behind him tall, tense, the kind of dad who'd seen enough of the world to be suspicious of anything that didn't fit. What she felt was the voice, high, unsure, honest. "Ma'am," it said. "Are you okay?" She looked up. Raindrops clung to her lashes. Her hair hung in wet ropes. Her voice cracked before it even formed a word. I'm fine," she lied. The man stepped forward, pulling the boy gently back by the hood of his jacket. "Jaime," he said. Low. "Let's go." But the boy wasn't moving. His face was soft with worry, his brows drawn together, the kind of empathy you can't teach, only inherit. "She's crying," Jaime whispered. "Really crying." Marcus looked down at the woman. Her coat was real, too real. Wool cashmere blend, probably 4 digits retail. Her handbag was designer. Her heels were scuffed but expensive. Nothing about her screamed homeless. And yet, she looked emptier than anyone he'd seen under a bridge. "I lost my job today," she said softly. "And my husband this morning. He filed, I don't know where to go." The words hit him sideways. He'd been there. Not exactly, but close enough. The kind of day that guts your identity and dignity all at once. The kind that strips your name of its meaning and replaces it with failure. "I'm sorry," Marcus muttered, "but I have my son with me. I understand," she said quickly, trying to stand, swaying like someone who hadn't eaten all day. "I shouldn't have. I'll figure it out." "Wait," Jamie said suddenly. "You can come to our place." Marcus turned, startled. "Jaime, we have soup," the boy continued, "and grilled cheese. And Daddy says it's important to help people who are sad." Marcus's jaw tightened. The rain was cold. The air was full of decisions. This woman, whoever she was, could be dangerous. Or she could be exactly who she appeared to be. A woman alone, unraveled, too proud to ask, but not too far gone to be saved. "What's your name?" Jaime asked. She blinked, as if no one had asked in a long time. "Sarah," she said. There was silence. Then a single, small voice broke it. "She can come." "Right, Daddy." Marcus looked between them. The boy whose heart had never been broken. The woman whose heart looked like it had been shattered this very morning. And the space between them, where something brave and foolish and good could still happen. "Just for tonight," he said. The words surprised him more than anyone. "But you stay on the couch." Sarah nodded. No argument, no entitlement. Just tears, the quiet kind, the thankful kind, as they turned down the street. Jaime holding Sarah's hand like he'd known her forever. Marcus hung back a step. He glanced over his shoulder. The puddle she'd been sitting in still shimmered beneath the lamplight. And for the first time in months, he didn't feel entirely alone. Chapter 2. One night only. The door creaked as Marcus opened it. And for a moment, Sarah hesitated on the threshold, not because of the cluttered living room or the dim lighting or the coat rack that leaned suspiciously to one side, but because the moment smelled like a home. Not wealth, not prestige, just buttered toast, lemon, dish, soap, and boyish laughter tucked between worn couch cushions. "You can put your stuff there," Marcus said, gesturing toward the hook beside the door. Sarah stepped inside carefully, like a museum guest afraid to touch anything. Her coat, still damp, dripped onto the doormat. I'll clean that, she offered, embarrassed. You're good, Marcus replied. We've had worse. Jaime rushed ahead, already pulling out the extra quilt from the closet. This is the warm one, he explained, laying it on the couch. We use it when Daddy's sick or the heater breaks. Sarah pressed her lips together to keep them from trembling. It wasn't pity she felt. It was grace, offered freely, wrapped in Spider-Man sheets and hand-me-down generosity. Marcus stirred the soup on the stove. It wasn't much, just canned tomato and a dash of milk to make it creamier. But tonight, it felt like a feast. He glanced back once, watching Sarah gently fold the quilt Jaime had tossed at her. She had the movements of someone who was used to order, but not lately. Lately, her hands moved slower, cautious, like they didn't know where they belonged anymore. At the table, Jaime slid into his chair, kicking off his shoes without a care in the world. Sarah sat across from him, straight-backed and careful not to lean too far. Her wet hair was tied into a low knot with a rubber band she'd found in her purse. No makeup now, just pale cheeks and tired eyes that looked like they hadn't closed in days. Marcus placed bowls in front of them without ceremony. Jaime clapped. Daddy makes the best grilled cheese. Objectively false, Marcus muttered, but thank you. For a while, they just ate, spoons clinking, rain whispering against the window. Then Jamie, like a switch had flipped in his mind, asked, So, do you have a kid? Sarah blinked. No. I wanted to, but life turned out different. There was a pause. Marcus looked up, but she didn't flinch under his gaze. Job came first, she said. Then the marriage. And now, well, you're like our cat, Jaime said with a grin. Sarah laughed softly. Excuse me. She showed up on our porch in the rain. 2. She stayed one night and never left. Marcus choked on his soup. Jaime, I'm just saying. The boy shrugged. Sometimes, the people who show up sad are the ones who need the most hugs. Sarah's smile faded into something quieter. She didn't say thank you. She didn't need to. Later, after the dishes were done, and Jaime had disappeared to his room with the promise of brushing at least most of his teeth, Marcus stood by the sink drying his hands. Sarah remained at the table, fingers wrapped around her mug, like it was the only warm thing she owned. Thank you, she said eventually. I know you didn't have to. No, I didn't, Marcus replied, but my son's stubborn. Wonder where he gets it. That earned a half smile. I don't expect anything, she added. I'll be gone in the morning. I just needed a place to breathe. Marcus hesitated, then walked over and turned on the small lamp beside the couch. A soft glow lit the room, making the space feel smaller and safer. Here, he said, better than that overhead buzz. Sarah nodded, and then she said it softly, like it had been buried under weeks of pretending. It's beautiful here. Marcus looked around, at the threadbare rug, at the water stain near the ceiling fan, at the stack of unopened mail and the laundry basket half folded on the couch. He almost laughed. But then he saw what she saw, a boy's artwork taped to the wall, a row of children's books stacked beside grown-up ones, 2 dinner plates in the sink, 1 extra mug left out. Not wealth, but peace, even if just for one night. And for the first time since his wife passed, Marcus didn't feel like he was surviving alone. He looked down at Sarah, tucked into the couch, blanket pulled up to her chin. Her face was soft, the lines of pain easing. Maybe, he thought, she needed this. But what he didn't realize yet was that he needed it too. Chapter 3, Traces of a Life. Marcus woke early, as always. Old habits from construction work. The 45 a.m. Coffee, silence, and stillness. Before Jaime came bursting into the day with stories and energy, he rubbed sleep from his eyes, stepping carefully over the creaky floorboard by Jaime's door. The couch came into view. She was still there. Sarah, she'd shifted. During the night, one leg curled under her, one hand still clutching the edge of the blanket like it might disappear if she let go. The light from the window painted gentle lines across her cheek, softening the exhaustion etched into her face. Marcus stood for a moment longer than he meant to, watching her breathe. It felt unfamiliar to have another adult in this space, to not feel so utterly alone in the stillness. In the kitchen, he poured a cup of day-old coffee and stared at the chipped mug like it had answers. His mind wandered to the bracelet she wore. He'd seen it last night as she lifted her spoon. Silver, delicate, and engraved with something, 3 letters, L-E. Treasure. It wasn't just jewelry. It looked like a corporate award, the kind they give at black tie galas with champagne fountains and too many forks. He glanced over again. This woman hadn't just fallen. She'd fallen from somewhere high. Jaime's door cracked open. "Is she still here?" he whispered, rubbing his eyes, bedhead exploding in every direction. "Yeah," Marcus nodded. "Let's keep it quiet a little longer." "Okay." Jaime tiptoed over like it was Christmas morning. "Do you think she'll want waffles?" "We don't have waffles. I can draw her one." He grinned. By the time Sarah stirred, Marcus was back at the stove, flipping pancakes that didn't quite flip. She sat up slowly, blinking at the unfamiliar room. Jaime handed her a folded piece of paper. "A cartoon waffle to make you smile," he said proudly. She did. "A real one. I didn't mean to sleep in," she said, pulling the blanket around her like armor. "You needed it," Marcus replied, handing her a mug. She looked down at it. The mug said "One Dad," faded from years in the dishwasher. She didn't laugh. She just held it gently. "I like this place," she said. Marcus shrugged. "It's small." "No," she said. "It's full," as Jaime chattered about school and drew syrup on his waffle drawing. Marcus sat across from Sarah at the table. Up close, she looked like someone who had worn heels and titles, but now she looked like someone who'd walked barefoot through fire. There was a stillness in her, but also something sharp beneath it. A woman who hadn't cried in front of strangers before last night. "You said you lost your job?" He began carefully. What did you do?" She hesitated, then met his gaze. "I was a COO. Marcus blinked. "Chief operating, like of a company?" "Yes." She looked down. "One of the fastest growing investment firms on the West Coast." He didn't say anything, just let that hang there. "I walked out 3 weeks ago," she added. "There was a breach. I tried to report it. My husband, he's the CEO, made it clear I had a choice. Stay silent or be destroyed. So you chose the third option," Marcus said. "Walk away." "I chose to live with myself." Silence. Even Jaime felt it and stopped coloring. Marcus nodded slowly. "I get it." He didn't need to say more. Sarah could see it in his eyes. He had walked away from something too. Maybe not a company. Maybe just a future that had once been full of plans. Now it was full of dishes and lunchboxes and late bills and guilt, but also pancakes and tiny hand-drawn waffles. Later, while Jaime got ready for school, Sarah stood by the window. Outside, the rain had paused. In its place was a quiet kind of light, not sunshine, but something softer, the kind of light that comes after a storm, when the world doesn't quite sparkle, but it breathes. "You can stay tonight too," Marcus said, almost without thinking. She turned to him, brows lifting. "Only if you want," he added. "No pressure." Sarah looked down at the bracelet on her wrist. L.E. Her initials, the company, the life she left behind. She touched it once, then let her hand fall. "Okay," she whispered. "One more night." But something in her voice said she already knew. One night had become something else, something harder to leave. Chapter 4. The company she left behind. Sarah stood by the small bathroom mirror, dabbing under her eyes with a towel that smelled faintly of lavender and bleach. Jaime's toothbrush sat in a cracked ceramic cup beside the sink. Someone had drawn a superhero cape on it with a Sharpie. She smiled just barely. Everything in this apartment felt lived in, worn, but honest. She hadn't been around honest things in a long time. Marcus had left early to pick up a side gig, some drywall repair 2 blocks down. He returned mid-morning, dusty and tired, but with a coffee for her. Black, no sugar. Guessed, he said. Could be wrong. You're not, she replied. They sat on the stoop for a while, watching Jaime play with sidewalk chalk, drawing smiley faces around puddles. So, Marcus said, keeping his tone light. You used to run the world. Sarah sipped her coffee, avoiding his gaze. Not the world, just a piece of it. He raised an eyebrow. She sighed. Landis Equity Systems. Marcus froze for a beat. That's the firm with the lawsuit. She nodded. My husband's still there. Charming smile. Clean shoes. Dirty hands. She told him the story in pieces. How she'd spent 10 years building something only to realize it was built on lies. How her husband, Paul, had doctored numbers, siphoned funds, and used her title to shield himself. She'd brought evidence to the board, and in return, they froze her out, publicly humiliated her, cut her severance, froze her accounts. Then Paul filed for divorce. I didn't just lose my job, she said. I lost my identity. Marcus didn't speak. He didn't need to. There was something about his silence. It wasn't empty. It was permission. The kind that says, you don't have to protect your dignity here. We've all bled on this floor. I should have walked sooner, she said. But when you're up there, she motioned vaguely toward the skyline. You forget how far down rock bottom really is. Jaime appeared with chalk-covered hands and a proud smile. I made you something. He showed her a stick-figure family, a big guy with a beard, a little boy, and a woman with long black hair and heels. We can be this if you want, he said. Her breath caught. She ruffled his hair. That's very generous. Later that day, they walked to the school. Sarah had offered to pick Jaime up while Marcus finished the drywall job. Marcus hesitated, just for a moment, then nodded. Jaime clung to her hand the whole way, talking about math and recess and a kid who brings weird lunches outside the school gate. A woman in athleisure glanced at Sarah, did a double take, and whispered something to another mom. Sarah's stomach flipped. On the way home, she didn't say much. Marcus noticed. Someone saw you. She nodded. A former investor's wife. Want to talk about it? No, but her hand gripped the coffee mug a little tighter. That evening, Sarah offered to cook. I can do more than cry and eat grilled cheese, she teased. Marcus smiled. Let's see it. She made stir-fried rice with leftover veggies and some frozen chicken. It wasn't fancy, but she moved in the kitchen like someone who once had a private chef and learned how to do it herself after the fallout, after the silence, after the headlines. Jaime loved it, declared it a restaurant-level meal, and asked if she could stay forever. Sarah laughed, but when she looked at Marcus, her eyes asked something different. Would that even be okay? After dinner, Jaime drifted to sleep on the couch. Marcus handed her a blanket, but didn't walk away. Do you miss it? He asked. The company? He nodded. She thought about it. I miss believing in it, she said. I miss thinking I was part of something good. He nodded again. I know that feeling. And in that moment, they weren't a CEO and a carpenter. They were just two people who had once believed in something and had to survive when it betrayed them. Chapter 5. What it means to be safe. They didn't talk about it the next morning. The whispered judgment from the schoolyard, or the investor's wife, who had recognized Sarah and clutched her purse like shame could spread by touch. Instead, they walked not far just around the block. Sarah needed fresh air, and Marcus needed time to think. Jaime was at school, and for the first time, it was just the two of them, with no small voice to fill the silence. "You don't have to explain," Marcus said, watching pigeons scatter ahead of them. Sarah shook her head. "But I want to." He waited. "I thought being successful meant being safe," she said. "If I just earned enough, achieved enough, I'd be protected." "And were you?" "No." They sat on a park bench near a broken fountain, the kind kids used to throw pennies into. Now, it just echoed. "I used to walk this route with heels and a driver waiting at the corner," she said with a dry laugh. "Now I pray for dry socks." Marcus didn't smile. He looked at her, really looked past the designer shell, past the headlines, past the corporate mask she hadn't even realized she was still wearing. "Sarah," he said, voice steady, "what exactly are you afraid of right now?" Her lips parted. She could have said judgment. She could have said being exposed. She could have said Paul finding her. But what she said was the truth. Being a burden, the words hung between them. Heavy, simple. Marcus nodded, like he knew that feeling all too well. "You're not," he said. "You're just someone who fell. We all do." She turned to him, and in her face, not mascaraed, not made up, not composed, he saw something raw. She didn't want to be saved. She just wanted a place where saving wasn't needed, a place where she could rest. Back at the apartment, Sarah disappeared into the bathroom while Marcus reheated leftover stir-fry for lunch. He knocked after 10 minutes. "You okay?" No answer. He cracked the door. She was sitting on the closed lid of the toilet, her head in her hands. The faucet ran. A towel was clenched in her lap. "I'm sorry," she said. I'm not used to being seen like this." "You mean human?" She looked up, blinking. "Yee," she whispered. "Exactly that." He handed her a glass of water. "Take your time," he said. "You're safe here." That night, after Hemi was tucked in and snoring softly beneath his superhero quilt, Sarah stayed up in the kitchen, quietly washing the few dishes in the sink. Marcus joined her. She didn't look at him, just asked, "Did you ever feel like you were only surviving because someone smaller needed you to?" He nodded. "Every day, I've been so many things," she said. "Wife, partner, CEO, strategist, even scapegoat. But I forgot how to be just me." She paused, turning off the faucet. Only the hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. "Being here," she continued, "with Jaime, with you, I'm starting to remember." He didn't reach for her hand, didn't step closer. Just let the moment breathe. Because sometimes safety wasn't found in rescue. It was found in the quiet spaces where no one asked you to perform. Sarah leaned back against the counter. "I don't know where this goes," she said. "I don't know what tomorrow looks like." "You don't have to," Marcus replied. "That's what tomorrow's for." She looked at him, for real this time. And in that gaze was something soft, something brave, something beginning. Chapter 6. Under the same roof. There was no formal agreement. No, "You can stay longer" conversation. No decision marked by a handshake or a nod. But Sarah didn't leave the next morning, or the next, and Marcus didn't ask when she planned to. Instead, life bent gently to include her. On Monday, she helped Jaime find his missing math worksheet. On Tuesday, she made eggs that didn't come out of a microwave. On Wednesday, she replaced the dead light bulb in the hallway without being asked. By Thursday, Jaime had started calling her coach whenever she corrected his spelling words. It was ordinary, but it was new. Sarah found herself folding laundry she didn't wear, scrubbing the kitchen counter like it was penance, fixing the Wi-Fi router that had been blinking red for months. She didn't mean to take over. She just liked being useful. And Marcus noticed Not in the way that a man notices a woman's perfume or her walk, or the way her laugh makes his heart pull sideways. He noticed the little things, the way she hummed while loading the dishwasher, the way Jaime always looked at her like she held the weather in her hands, the way the apartment felt less heavy somehow. That Thursday evening, they ate takeout on the floor, the table covered in Jaime's school project. 3 poster boards, 1 model volcano, 2 frazzled adults pretending to understand second-grade science. I haven't had dinner on a floor since college, Sarah laughed, popping a dumpling into her mouth. Marcus smiled. We call it picnic mode. Makes overdue bills taste better. Later that night, while Jaime snored with glue still on his fingers, Sarah sat on the couch, blanket tucked around her. Marcus stood in the kitchen doorway, watching her scroll through her phone. She was on a job board, not the kind she used to use, not CEO listings, administrative, freelance, remote. Starting over. You don't have to do that tonight, he said. She looked up. Do what? Figure everything out. She exhaled slowly. It's easier to try when it's quiet. He walked over, sat down not too close, not too far. Why do you do that? He asked gently. She raised a brow. Try to earn your place in a home that already welcomes you. Sarah looked down at her hands. I don't know how to be still, she whispered. Stillness feels like failure. Marcus nodded slowly. I used to feel that way. After Marissa died, if I wasn't doing, I felt like I was falling apart. It was the first time he'd said her name out loud. Sarah didn't flinch. She just waited. She was good, Marcus said, and loud, and smarter than me by a mile. She chose you, Sarah said. That makes you smarter than you think. He chuckled. You're good at that, he said, reminding people of their value. I'm just learning how to see again. They sat in silence after that. Not awkward silence, just full, like a song that doesn't need lyrics anymore. At midnight, Marcus turned off the lamp. Sarah whispered, Good night. He whispered back, Home's not a place. It's the people who let you be quiet in it. She didn't cry. Not this time. But she did hold the blanket a little tighter. And for the first time in weeks, she fell asleep under a roof where she didn't have to be strong to be wanted. Chapter 7. The Dinner Invitation. By the time a full week had passed, Sarah's toothbrush lived in the cup beside Jaime's. No one questioned it. No one labeled it. It was just there, like the house had grown around her. Marcus came home from the job site with drywall dust in his hair and takeout under his arm. Sarah was on the floor with Jaime, helping him draw constellations on black poster board with a white gel pen. That's Orion, she said, tapping a dot. And that's his belt. Marcus set the food down and watched for a moment. He wasn't used to walking into a house that already had someone in it. But now, the soft murmur of Sarah's voice felt normal, comforting, whole. Later that evening, after dinner, Marcus's co-worker Dean dropped by to return a borrowed sander. Dean was the kind of man who always spoke too loudly and flirted with anything taller than a lawn chair. He took one look at Sarah and grinned. Well, Marcus, you've been holding out on us. Marcus narrowed his eyes. She's a guest. Dean winked. Sure she is. Sarah smiled politely, then disappeared into the kitchen. When Marcus joined her to grab a drink, she was drying her hands quietly. I'm sorry about him, he said. It's fine, she replied, but he could see it, the shift in her shoulders, the small retreat in her eyes. It wasn't Dean's flirtation that bothered her. It was being reduced again to something other than who she truly was. After Dean left, Marcus found her folding Jaime's laundry, which she didn't have to do. You okay? He asked. She paused. It's not the worst thing I've been called this month. He leaned against the doorway. I know you're not trying to stay forever. I'm not, she said, but sometimes I forget. I'm only passing through. The next day, at school pickup, something happened. Sarah walked Jaime to the gate, and one of the moms, the same one who'd recognized her before, stopped her. "You're Shamey's aunt." "Right." Sarah blinked. Jaime answered for her. "No, she's our friend. She lives with us, and she makes the best scrambled eggs." The mom looked puzzled. Sarah just smiled, because that was the first time she realized maybe she wasn't just staying, maybe she was belonging. That night, as they sat on the couch eating bowls of reheated pasta, Jaime looked up from his plate and asked casually, "So, are you coming to our Thanksgiving?" Marcus nearly choked. Sarah froze. I hadn't thought that far," she said carefully. Jaime shrugged. "Well, if you're still here, you should. Daddy's stuffing is gross, but he tries really hard." Marcus cleared his throat. "Thanks, Bud." Sarah laughed. Really laughed. And it reached all the way to her eyes. Later, when Jaime was asleep and the lights were low, Marcus stood by the window with his arms crossed. Sarah joined him, mug in hand. "You don't have to invite me," she said quietly, "to Thanksgiving or anything else." He turned to her. "I didn't," he said. She raised an eyebrow. He smirked. "My son did," and his word outranks mine. They stood there for a beat. Soft light, distant traffic, the quiet hum of a home not built on status or perfection, but presence. "You ever think about it?" she asked. "What this could be?" Marcus looked down at her. "Sometimes," he said, "but then I remind myself, one day at a time." Sarah took a sip of tea. "One day at a time," she repeated, and in that moment, her heart whispered something she hadn't dared admit. Maybe she didn't want to leave at all. Chapter 8. Her name on the headlines. Jaime was sitting cross-legged on the floor, cereal bowl tucked under one arm, coloring with his free hand. Marcus was fixing a leaky sink under the kitchen cabinet, tools clinking on the linoleum. Sarah, still in an oversized sweatshirt Jaime had loaned her, flipped through the paper. A rare treat. Real pages, real ink. It was almost peaceful. Almost. Until Jaime said something that made both adults freeze. "Miss Emily, at school, showed me a picture of you in her phone." Sarah looked up slowly. "She said you were on the news." "Is that true?" Marcus stood, wiping his hands on a towel. Sarah's expression shifted like a cloud passing over sunlight. "What kind of picture?" she asked, carefully. "The kind with you in a fancy dress, standing next to a man in a suit. You looked sad." Marcus watched her, not judging, just waiting. Sarah set the paper down. The article said, "You took money." Jaime continued, "But that doesn't sound like you. You make scrambled eggs and help with homework." Marcus gently put a hand on Jaime's shoulder. "Hey, Bud, why don't you go finish your drawing in your room for a bit?" Jaime nodded, unfazed. "I made you a cape." "Miss Sarah, you're a hero in this one." He darted off. The silence that followed was thick. Sarah didn't speak right away. She didn't need to. Her face pale, jaw tight, said enough. "I should have told you," she whispered. "It was bound to come up." Marcus leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Not closed off, just holding something heavy. "Why didn't you?" "I didn't want to be her anymore," Sarah said. "The woman in the article. The disgraced executive. The abandoned wife. I just wanted to be someone else for 5 minutes." Marcus nodded slowly. "Tell me the real story." So she did. All of it. How she tried to report illegal behavior inside Landis equity systems. How the board protected her husband instead. How the press turned on her. How her accounts were frozen. How she was locked out of her own penthouse. How she walked through the rain with one suitcase and no plan. How she ended up in a bookstore doorway, praying to disappear. When she finished, Marcus exhaled. Long, heavy, but not angry. "You didn't take the money. I didn't take a cent. I gave them the truth." and they buried me for it." He studied her for a long moment, then walked to the sink, turned on the faucet, washed his hands in silence. Sarah stood still, because sometimes waiting for someone to believe you is more terrifying than being lied about in the first place. Finally, Marcus spoke. "My wife used to say, 'What's true always finds daylight.'" Sarah blinked. He met her eyes. "And you just brought it to mine." She felt her knees go weak and leaned against the wall. "You believe me. I trust my gut," he said. "And my gut tells me you're not a thief. You're just tired." Her shoulders collapsed into relief, but there was still fear in her voice. "They're going to come for me again. Marcus, the press, my ex, people who want me to vanish. Let them come," he said. "You've got better armor now." Jaime reappeared just then, waving a paper crown. "I made you queen of pancakes, too." He placed it gently on Sarah's head. She laughed, and it broke the tension like sunrise over fog. That night, Marcus found her sitting quietly at the window. She was holding the news article Jaime had printed from the school computer, but it wasn't shame on her face anymore. It was something closer to resolve. "You still want me here?" she asked softly. He nodded. "You're not here by accident, Sarah. You were meant to find us." She looked down. "For how long?" Marcus didn't answer right away, then said, "For as long as it takes." And Sarah, for the first time in a long time, let herself believe that maybe being found wasn't the end of her story. Maybe it was the beginning of the right one. Chapter 9. The Offer. The envelope came by courier, thick, heavy, embossed. Sarah hadn't seen her name printed like that in weeks. Sarah L. Whitmore. The name the world once knew. The name she no longer wore. Inside, a letter from her former firm's legal counsel. The whistleblower case had gone public, and against all odds, she had won. A settlement, an NDA clause, a clean payout with more zeros than she remembered how to spend, and a quiet note at the bottom. "We'd welcome your return to leadership under revised terms. The public still believes in you. Let's bring you home." Sarah stared at the letter, long after the ink had blurred from her grip. Marcus watched her from the doorway. "You okay?" She nodded too quickly. "Looks like a win." "It is," she said, "on paper." But that night, while Jaime slept, and the moon curled silver across the floorboards, she sat at the kitchen table, letter spread open like a wound. "I thought this would feel like victory," she whispered. Marcus said nothing, just listened. "I thought I wanted my name back, my power, my place." She looked up. "But I already have a place, right here. Folding laundry, making school lunches, being called coach by a kid who thinks scrambled eggs are magic." Marcus sat down beside her. "You earned that win," he said, "but it doesn't have to own you." She nodded, then pulled out a check, the first disbursement from the settlement. She slid it across the table to him. Marcus didn't move. "What's this?" "For you. For Jaime. To say thank you." He shook his head. "No. Please. You've let me stay here. Eat your food. Take up your couch. You took up space." "Sarah," he said. "Not debt." She blinked. "You could fix the car, pay off the eviction notice, get Jaime into that better school." He slid the check back. "I didn't help you for a reward. I helped you because my son reminded me I still had a heart." The silence between them was warm, full of unsaid things. Sarah folded the check, tucked it away. "Okay," she said quietly. "No strings." Then Marcus smiled. "No strings, just grilled cheese and math homework." Later, they stood on the apartment's fire escape. Seattle's skyline blinked in the distance, distant and cold. "I could go back," Sarah said. "Be CEO again. Rewrite my legacy." "You could." She turned to him, but he met her eyes. "But I think your legacy might be here, in this little apartment, in the boy who sees you as a queen before the world does. She looked down at her hands. I never knew how badly I wanted to be ordinary until the world made me feel disposable. You're not disposable, Marcus said. You're rare. The next morning, Sarah sent a single email. Thank you for the offer. I decline. I have found something more valuable than a title. Fuel. She hit send, then made waffles with Jaime. She didn't say anything to Marcus right away, but that evening, he found the settlement check taped inside Jaime's sketchbook. Underneath, Sarah had written, use this to build something, not because you have to, but because you can. Marcus smiled to himself, folded the page shut, and realized that what they were building wasn't just a better future. It was a life. Chapter 10. The answer. The apartment was loud in a way it hadn't been in years. Not chaotic, just full. Jaime's artwork was taped across every wall. A string of dollar store leaves dangled above the sink. Marcus wore an apron that read, Grill Sergeant, even though the oven had done most of the work. Sarah stood by the couch, folding napkins into triangles that refused to stay folded. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, from awareness. This was not a layover, not a temporary kindness, not a shelter from a storm. This was a choice. Jaime came flying out of his room in a collared shirt, one size too big. You ready? He asked her. For what? He held up a place card, handwritten, slightly smudged. Your seat. It says family. Sure. Her throat tightened. She nodded. I'm ready. Dinner was humble. Roast chicken instead of turkey. Boxed mashed potatoes. Store-bought pie. But the conversation, the laughter, the feeling was richer than any boardroom Sarah had ever sat in. After dessert, as Jaime drifted off in a sugar coma on the couch, Sarah found herself alone in the kitchen with Marcus. The window was cracked open, letting in the November air. She leaned against the counter, mug of tea in hand. I got another call this morning, she said. He looked up. From a VC firm in New York. They want me to fly out next week. New position, double the title, triple the pay. He nodded slowly, and I haven't called back. Silence stretched between them, not heavy, but full. Then she added, I thought I wanted power again. I thought I needed it to prove I survived. Marcus stepped closer, and now she looked at him, really looked. At some point, she said, I stopped surviving, and I started living. Marcus said nothing. He just stepped beside her, close enough to feel her breath. Do you want to stay? He asked gently. I do, she said, but not out of gratitude or safety or because Jaime called me family. He waited. I want to stay because this is the first place I've been seen fully and not asked to be more. He reached for her hand. I don't need more. He said, you are enough. They stood there, hand in hand, not kissing, not rushing, just being. Two people who had once been lost in different ways, now standing still, together. Jaime stirred in his sleep on the couch, muttering something about gravy and dragons. Sarah smiled. Marcus did too. Outside, the city moved on. Inside, something had settled. Not like dust, but like roots. Because in the end, the question was never, will she stay? The real question, the one that lingered like warmth long after the fire died down was, what if she was meant to find them all along? The life she didn't plan, but chose. The porch light stayed on. Marcus always left it that way. A habit since Jaime was born. Just in case someone ever needed help finding their way home. Tonight, that light burned soft over the cracked welcome mat, where Sarah's heels once dripped rain and her world had fallen apart. Now her shoes sat neatly by the door, next to Jaime's sneakers, and beside Marcus's work boots still dusted with drywall and a life built the hard way. Sarah stood at the window, arms wrapped around herself, watching the skyline she used to rule from above. It no longer felt like loss. It felt like distance, like something she'd outgrown. She hadn't been saved. She had saved herself by allowing someone else to witness her unravel and not look away. She had found a boy who called her coach, a man who never asked her to be perfect, and a place where her silence didn't mean weakness, it meant peace. She turned to Marcus, now sipping tea in the doorway. Neither spoke. They didn't need to, because this wasn't a fairy tale. There was no castle, no rescue, no polished promise. Just two people, brave enough to say, I'll stay, not because I have to, but because I want to. And sometimes, that's the greatest love story of all. What about you? Have you ever found something unexpected when everything felt lost? Tell us, what are your thoughts on this story? Leave a comment and rate it from 0 gumminsparring or 0 kamu to 10. And don't miss out. Click here to watch more of our latest stories now. Make sure to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss another true love story, CEO love story, or bedtime story that just might heal something inside you.